Okay, welcome everyone. I hope you've all made it in okay. And thank you so much for joining us today for our Game Changers webinar with Emma Clark. So the Game Changers series, for those of you who don't know, it's a webinar where we have interviews with University of Liverpool Management School alumni who are doing things a little bit differently. We have so many fantastic management school alumni. And it's fantastic to showcase some of the wonderful things that you're all doing. So today we are joined by one of our inspirational alumni, Emma Clark. She's certainly doing things differently in her field, so I'm really excited for this conversation with you today, Emma.
No, it's nice to be here, and thank you everyone for taking the time to log on and listen to my story and what I've got to say.
But before we get into our discussion, I just want to know a few housekeeping things. That the session is being recorded, so if possible, we'd like everyone to keep themselves muted until the end of the session. For the first half of the session, me and Emma, I'm going to introduce Emma first of all, and then me and Emma are going to have a conversation. I'm going to be asking Emma a few questions, and then later in the session, there'll be opportunity for audience Q&A. If you could type your questions in the chat at that point when we get to audience Q&A, that would be really helpful, and we'll read those out just because we're recording. So all of that said, a warm welcome to Emma, who we are delighted to have with us today. Now I'm going to read all about you, Emma, and you're going to feel really embarrassed. So Emma is currently the Women's Commercial and Marketing Manager at Blackburn Rovers. She's a sponsorship and commercial strategy expert and an advocate for women in sport. In her current role, she's made significant strides in growing the women's game. She's secured Dakota Biotech as brand new front of t-shirt training kit sponsor. Did I get all that right, Em?
Front of shirt and
There
training.
you go.
It's fine.
And she's been achieving record-breaking deals for the women's team, which is just fantastic. She has a strong work ethic, exceptional networking skills, and a real expertise in football and commercial industries. Emma is driving commercial success and continually expanding the opportunities for female athletes. She's previously been a board member at Tharos, providing strategic guidance, a freelance consultant managing global athlete charity announcements, brand negotiations, and athlete marketing strategies. She's served on the managing committee of the Association of Sporting Directors, where she's helped shape business strategies, develop industry relationships, and explore commercial opportunities to support football leadership. Emma holds an MBA in football industries from the University of Liverpool, and also a first-class honours degree in sports science and development. She was awarded the Woman in Football What If Scholarship for her contributions to advancing women in football, and has shared her insights on diversity and inclusion with FIFPro and Women in Football. Wow, done such a lot already, Emma.
I feel like I'm on Days of Our Lives. Is it? I think that's what it was called. There's probably only 2 people who have joined this webinar who know what that is. But it sounds like a lot when you read it out and you can listen.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And yeah, what a fitting guest to have so close to International Women's Day. So yeah, really happy to have you. So we've got a lot to talk about, I think, Emma, to get through today. I'm sure it'll be a fascinating conversation. But perhaps we could just start by you just walking us through a typical day in your current role as commercial and marketing manager.
Yeah, so obviously I'm based in Liverpool, so I'll drive to Blackburn every day, and I'll put my motivational music on, sing my head off down the motorway. And then it depends on where I am. If I'm at the club, I'll have meetings and I'll just reply to all the emails, and basically just getting prepared for the matches that are ahead and reaching out commercially to people. There's a lot that goes into commercial and marketing. And sorry, I just have to, the computer was about to reboot and we don't need that.
No,
yeah. So I deal with ticketing, match day experience, hospitality. So it's basically touching all of those areas throughout the day, spinning all the plates. while maintaining, a relationship with the actual players, whatever they need from me, getting them to events to promote the Blackburn women's brand, creating as many opportunities as I can to build that brand and be successful in that role and try and push as many boundaries as I can. And from the minute I walk through the door, the day is gone. Sometimes I don't even open the laptop till 2 p.m. and I'm playing catch up, but I like to be that busy. So for instance, on a match day, I'll come in, I'll make sure everything's done, make sure hospitality's set up, everyone who arrives to support us in that game, they all need managing, the hospitality needs managing. So my feet do not touch the ground, and I could probably rack up about 6 miles on a match day running everywhere and in heels as well sometimes. So it's very diverse and I like that. And then obviously all the initiatives that we have to blend into the season to promote for access for all, diversity, Proud Rovers, Her Game 2, International Women's Month. It is very hectic and full on, but I thrive under the pressure, and I think that comes from the airport days of the stress.
Well, that's a brilliant, something that brings us into our next question, thinking about your previous, your airport days, as you call them.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to hear a bit more about your career journey, which I know has been fascinating. And so if perhaps you could talk us through a bit about that journey and what's motivated you throughout.
Yeah, I actually started out in a very prominent barrister chambers in Liverpool called Exchange Chambers. And then from there, I went to Hill Dickinson, which is another prominent solicitors in Liverpool. And then I fell pregnant with Thomas. And one thing I will say about this whole journey was when I was younger, I didn't have support or guidance really from anyone. So I found it really hard to struggle the mum, new baby life and go back to work. So I took a year off, and then I was a bit, where do I go? What do I do? And I seen an ad in the paper, this is telling of my age now, for airport staff for check-in. And I thought, oh, I'd like to do that. So I rang up, and at the time, a guy called Stuart answered. And I was like, I'm ringing about the job. And he was like, oh, okay, do you drive? And I said, no. And he was like, this isn't the job for you. And put the phone down.
Oh,
And I was like, I was like, excuse me, I only live over the road. I'd like an interview. And I think that just tells a lot about who I am. I'll always push and try and be a little bit cheeky, because if you don't ask, you don't get.
mm.
And then I got an interview. Well, I got 3 actually. And then I went through a rigorous training. There was about 30 exams to comply with aviation rules and stuff like that. And from there, I kind of just worked my way up to operations. So for not EasyJet, Ryanair, Flybe, Thomas Cook, multiple airlines like that. But there was just no progression that I could see at that time for me. And when that, after 10 years, it comes to some crossroads in my personal life as well. And some might call it a midlife crisis. And I just jacked everything in and was like, I'm leaving. This isn't for me no more. And I was struggling being a single mum, doing 12-hour shifts from 4 till 4. And that kind of spurred me on to, what do I want to do with my life? But I'd also joined a rowing club, which put me into a different vicinity with all different types of people from different backgrounds. And the conversations were a lot different. So the inspiration to do whatever I wanted to do was there. But then everyone thought I'd lost my mind. I was like, what are you doing? You can't do this. You can't quit your job. And I was like, watch me.
Good for you, Emma. Good for you. And I think there you are touching on some of the challenges that you faced on your career journey. And so it'd be great to hear a little bit about some of the challenges overall, the obstacles, but how you've overcome them, especially, as a
Yeah.
single mum and as a woman in a male-dominated industry.
Well, I think first off, being a single mum is very, very hard. And I think for about a year or two, my mum wasn't at home in Liverpool, so I literally was a prisoner of myself with I didn't move over the door, and I was going to night school and stuff like that. And then when I decided to do the degree, luckily my mum's name's Linda, she came back to Liverpool and she was basically like, do whatever you need to do. But without her support, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things. And then that set me on a trajectory of doing the coaching and development sports science degree with a whole group of amazing people that were actually born the year I left school. But we were a great group, and it was, it was an amazing time. And I had to do night school on top of that for GCSEs because I was too old. Apparently those didn't count anymore. But I think trying to overcome the barriers of, and maybe I am a bit too old, because I think I was about 32 at the time. So I'd figured out with going to college, going to uni, I'd probably finish about the age of like 38, 39, and people were like, it's too old, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to be a PE teacher. I mean, how that has changed. And I just treated it like a job. So even when we were off, I went in and put the work in. The uni let me bring the kids to school when my mum couldn't have them at half term. I had a lot of people help me along the journey, some really pivotal ones. Jamie's teacher was one. She gave me work experience. So Jamie's autistic, so Christina Harris was a massive help in those early days, and I still thank her even for the work she put in with Jamie. So yeah, I think I just went into autopilot, and kind of just went for it. And then when I got to the MBA, and Lucy Pepper wrote the story for women in football, and I just burst out crying when I read it back, because I was like, wow, this is a lot. And obviously I was, I had a social life, I'd done stuff with the kids, and I look back now and think, where did I get the energy to do all that? But no, it was really good. I think I had a lot to prove, not only to people but to myself, and it paid off. But there was massive amounts of hard work behind everything that people saw.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. What a fantastic, story that you've managed to push through all of that. You've navigated a great deal. I mean, being a single mum alone is definitely a huge and full-time job, never mind going back to school or university. And dealing with all of that at the same time. And great to hear about the support along the way. And maybe that thing that you said near the beginning about, you're always pushing through and not taking no for an answer. And that's good for you, Emma.
Thank you.
So that also does link into something else that we mentioned when we were preparing for the webinar, and you touched upon this idea of societal norms and how you felt at multiple kind of points in your journey that maybe you're not supposed to be here, and that was a recurring feeling. And I just wondered if you could talk us a bit through that. I'm sure it's something that other people can relate to as well.
Yeah, I think obviously when from the very first day on the Finber for the MBA, I was just in awe of the people that were speaking, and I really was like, I can't believe I'm even in this room. And that MBA pushed me to limits intellectually, which I kind of looked back on the undergrad and was like, that was a breeze compared to the MBA. And I learned so much, but I did feel like I shouldn't have been in that room. And I think as a woman, you are put on a societal timeline of when you should do things. And I absolutely hate that, because it doesn't really matter what age you are or what you want to do in life. You can do it. You can always start again. You can always take that leap of faith. And I think you'll always be rewarded if you put the hard work in. But when Neil Doncaster said to me, why are you here? And I think he's seen the look of horror on my face, because I was like, oh, he's found me out. I shouldn't be here, because I had massive imposter syndrome. He was then like, don't look so worried. It's just a simple question. And I said, well, I want more. And I wasn't getting it from the role that I had or anything previous. And I want to be great. I didn't entirely know where that was in the area of business that I wanted to go in. I just knew I wanted it to be in football. And obviously the MBA gives you that when you're meeting different types of people, looking at different types of sections to work in within sport, not just football. I knew that I could make the most difference in the women's sector. So yeah, he said, in society, in the kind of communities where you've grown up, you obviously went to the airport, or you potentially would have went to work for Jaguar Land Rover, and people don't break out of those cycles. And I said, it wasn't given for me. I wasn't happy there. And then I went home and I put I think it was spider webbed into on an A4 piece of paper, "You're not supposed to be here," and lots of reasons why, and why I shouldn't be, which will probably be my book one day. But yeah, I think you've just got massive self-doubt and the criticality, and I knew I had so much riding on this because of the previous years of the work I'd put in. It was, I couldn't fail at this. So I did treat it differently, I think, probably to my peers from both degrees. But I think that was better for me to think like that, because it drove me on further.
Yeah, and so you've obviously overcome a lot of those barriers, as well as, practical challenges. You've obviously also overcome all of those different I'm not supposed to be here feelings, whether it's about age, being a woman, whatever else you've got written that we're going to read about in your book in the in the future. So, and you've touched on this, but despite all those challenges, what would you say is the key to your success? What has enabled you to keep going?
Probably insanity. No, joking. I just had a lot riding on it. I had 3 children who were looking up to me, and I wanted to instill hard work and, that ethos of you can do anything and be anything in your life, because no matter what pressures come with society or your friends, and we do have a lot, you've got to listen to your own self. And if it's meant to be, I truly do think that if it's meant to be, it will happen. And a lot of things did happen that probably made my journey look a lot easier to, people looking at my social media. I think one person said to me once, everything just comes so easy to you. And I was like, it really, like, come and walk a day in my shoes. You don't see me crying on the end of the bed, like even before the MBA, because I didn't get the scholarship straight away. And I was like, I really want to do this course, but where am I getting the funds to, one, live, because you can't work and support 3 children while you're doing it. And I was just, I was very upset, and I was like, Nan, please just send me something good. And then I got the email the next day to say I'd received the scholarship. So I knew in my life I was on the right path, and I was supposed to be exactly where I was. So that was great. But yeah, it was massive amounts of hard work. And not only did I get to experience both undergrad and the MBA with all these different types of people from across the world, so did my children. And they got to learn about cultures, religion, and, that opens up their minds. And I was grateful, because when you do come from communities in certain boroughs in Liverpool or Manchester, London, you can kind of get penned in to that, like Neil touched on, you don't really leave those type of jobs because you're just in that community. And when you strive for better, sometimes people's own insecurities come out and they don't really like it. It's a bit of, oh, you shouldn't do that. And it's not that they don't want you to do it or they want you to fail. They just worry for you. So it was nice to have that and experience it with the children as well. That was amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting how the children actually drive you as well, because I don't think that's talked about enough, actually, how being a parent can actually drive you forward, as well as have all the challenges that it has in the background as well. But it also is the big driver, it sounds like, for you as well.
Yeah, and all they're interested in now is what free tickets can you get us?
Well, there you go. They can't be mad at you for working all the time.
I know, I know, I know.
And you did touch on also the fact that the football industry, the MBA at Liverpool, was important in your career. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I don't really know what I was expecting. I'd obviously Tunde had sent me all the information, and then Julie had walked me through everything, and I didn't know what to expect, but I just knew I wanted to get back into football because I'd put that on the back burner because I didn't have any time to keep up with it, and I wasn't football savvy. I mean, I used to be so football savvy. So first off, it was just, I'm going to do this and get my love for football back and see where it takes me. And then very quickly it was, types of work and knowledge that I'd never even touched on, even though I'd done operations in the airport. It was a totally different way of life and learning. And it was, again, like the undergrad, it was a hamster wheel of breakfast clubs, uni, coming home, feeding the children, going back to the library till 1 a.m, and then it was just constant. So when people say, can you work in football, the time frame and stuff like that, I'm just like, that isn't nothing compared to what I've just done. But I think as a person, it really did push me to the limits of what I thought I was capable of, and it shaped me into a better, rounded front-facing person in business. And also, it put me in rooms with people that I would never have gotten to speak to. One thing I will say is you do the MBA and it gives you a toe. You can dip your toe into football, and then it's entirely up to you where you take that. So we met Misha Shea, and he was like, you need to network, you need to get to London as much as you can. And I was sitting there thinking, I can't get to London all the time. Like, I can't go and travel. My weekends are with the children, and I need to give them that because I've been so busy. So that was a bit disheartening because I was like, and then COVID hit, and I kind of had a mini meltdown because I was like, all this hard work has kind of got, like, what will happen? No one knew. And plus we had all these assignments due in the space of 4 months and then a dissertation. And I just went absolutely crazy on LinkedIn and was reaching out to people, and anyone who would give me a conversation in football, I took. And some days I would have 5, 6 conversations. And the large majority of this network I see, week by week or month by month. And when we finally got into a room together, it was at the Football Transfer Forum, where I'd asked for a free ticket in return for my services. And so many people I'd spoke to on Zoom were like, hi, Emma. Like, and I was like, oh, you remember me, kind of like shocked a little bit. And I was the only woman in that room. There was 150 men, and I was the only woman. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to go and like network with some people that I know, some people that I didn't know. And I remember there was a cluster of 5, 6 men, and I kind of just pushed my way in, and I was like, hi. But inside I was dying. I was like, oh my God. And we were chatting and stuff, and I was just thinking, they're going to be like, who is this person? She doesn't know nothing about football. And obviously that wasn't the case. That I've never really felt that that's been an issue. So I think the MBA totally changed everything, and I would recommend it to anyone who wanted to do it. I think it's good character building. It can position you in football or any other sport, to be fair. And yeah, I've made great contacts still with the speakers. I can ring them up when I need advice. I know one of them's on this call right now, AJ, who's on the course previously. He has been a rock. Thank you, AJ. He listens to me rant all the time. So yeah, I think I don't think I'd be here right now if I hadn't done the FIMBA course in this capacity. I may be down some other trajectory, potentially doing well, but yeah, I think without that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now.
That's obviously brilliant for us to hear. And yeah, I'm also interesting in terms of the networking, and that's such an issue for women often, especially in male-dominated industries, isn't it? That that anxiety around networking, and then it's interesting that maybe the kind of Zoom networking leveled the playing field a little bit, or gave you
Yeah, it massively propelled the network. I think COVID kind of gave me that, which I'm grateful for. And I mean, it was hard going with the coursework and stuff and having the kids at home. And then I actually had to have my sister's kids for 2 weeks. So I had 6 kids. And while I was trying to do Kieran's work, and it was okay because they distracted my kids as well. So that was fine. But I look back now and I just feel like I was in a daze because it was just one assignment done, on to the next. Without being, I'm a very interactive person. I like to do things in person. So not having, the classes to go to and interact with the professors and the lecturers was probably a little bit of a struggle. But I think because I'm older, I'm at that mentality of, I'm lucky to be in these rooms. I need to take advantage of that. And if I was 20 years younger, I don't think I would have that confidence. But I think you have to. And networking isn't something that everyone can do. It is a skill. And you also have to have something to talk about because people switch off very, very quickly and they're giving you their time. And in football and other sports, time is very, very precious. So building the relationships is something I've been really good at, and I think it's aided me quite well on the journey.
That's brilliant. And then I guess bringing all of that together, Emma, as we wrap up before Q&A, if you could give one piece of advice to yourself or to other people looking back, because you've touched on so many different things that have helped you to get where you are today. But if you could give one piece of advice, what would it be and why?
I think I probably would tell myself to enjoy it a little bit more and relax and not be so, this needs doing, that needs doing. And just, I think a lot of it was a blur because I was on autopilot. And I think, yeah, it would probably be to enjoy things a little bit more. Don't be so self-conscious or have imposter syndrome, because I do have the right to be in those rooms. And yeah, societal norms don't apply. You are your own person and you can do whatever you want and go wherever you need to be.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously everybody. I mean, it's good to remember that everybody suffers with imposter syndrome, and that's not something that's just down to one person, but usually you speak to someone and they've also, definitely experienced it.
I never had to worry about that when I was younger, to be honest. It wasn't really a thing until I quit my job and I had all these new feelings and experiences. And I look back and I think I used to just go to work, do my job. It was massively hectic, but I never ever thought, oh, I shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be doing this. And I probably didn't view that job as a career. It was just something I was doing. And this is something that really needs to be brought to attention in high schools. I think, different types of businesses. Like I said to Benito, one of the lecturers, I was just operations, I'd just done this. And he was like, no, and he broke it down in business terms. And I was like, that's something I've never heard before. And it makes you think a little bit differently. But you can end up in like a mundane job when you leave school and you stay in it because you need the money and it's convenient, and we're not inspired to be better and do better that much unless it's the teacher who has that way of thinking also does that for you. So a lot needs to change there, I think, especially for women.
Yeah, and it's fantastic now that obviously in the role that you're doing, you're focusing on building women up and advocating for women in sports. And so that must feel, hopefully that must feel like a really, so really valuable thing that you can now bring to the table, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, I do love it, to be fair. I'm always finding myself in giving it like inspo talks to people, and I'm like, you can do anything you want.
I can see a motivational speaker in your future
Yeah,
to
do
add to the
TED
long
Talks.
list of things that you already have done. Thank you. Thank you so much, Emma. That's been, yeah, such a wonderful conversation. And thank you for sharing your experiences and journey so honestly and openly with everyone. And I think if you can, navigate an MBA and with 6 children during a pandemic, you can do pretty much anything.
I know. I mean, it helps that they were good, so.
So now it's time to open up to audience Q&A for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. We can answer some of your questions. Hopefully Emma will be able to answer some questions. So if you're able, please could you type any questions that you've got for Emma in the chat, and I'll do my best to read them out. I don't think we've got any questions already. And I hope that
Don't be
people
shy, people.
hope people are able. Yeah, ask away. Do ask away, everyone. We can't see you on the screen because it's recording, so they might have to post in the Q&A, says Lisa. So where do I find that, Lisa? Q&A. Oh, someone said chat is disabled. Okay. So yeah, if everybody knows how to type in the Q&A, then please do go ahead. And thank you, Susanna. Thumbs up. Hopefully everyone knows where to type. I'm not seeing any questions coming up, Lisa. I'm sure it's not that everybody's just, really shy.
It's fine.
Oh, here we go. We've got someone's figured out how to type in the Q&A, so well done. So Inyasia, I hope I've pronounced that right, and I probably haven't, has asked, what parts of your job do you find most challenging, and what skills and strengths do you use daily?
I think quite naively, I came into women's football thinking that I could conquer the world very quickly and there would be less red tape, but there's even more red tape than I anticipated. So I'd wanted this type of role. I'd probably say 6 months into the MBA, I was like, this is where I want to go. And I'd met Jo Tung and she like blew me away. She was so inspirational. And I was like, that is what I want to do. I want to represent female athletes. So I'd done that for a time. And then when I got to a club, I had all these ideas and concepts and campaigns and working with other sports as well. But maybe I was a little bit too ambitious because the clubs aren't there yet. So it is, going in, assessing the landscape and basically planting seeds so that in 2 to 3 years, all those ideas can come to light. So I think I do get told to slow down quite a lot, but it's just the way I am. So I think I have to be more patient. Definitely, I'm not the most patient of people. I'm like, we need to do this. Why can't we do it right now? And the club have been great in facilitating lots of my wild ideas. And our front of shirt Dakota Biotech, Stephen, is a very similar person to me. So when we get on the phone and we discuss ideas, it's probably more damaging than because we can take over the world, we can do whatever, but then obviously it has to slide in to everyone's schedules at the clubs, and we do have to kind of mirror and work around the men sometimes because it's not always easy to have the training ground, or if we want to shoot some content but the men are training, we have to go and find somewhere else. So it's always adapting, and in the same breath the men do adapt to us as well. It's not just the men. And I think you've just kind of got to tell yourself these things will happen, and you have to be patient. You have to get your voice across and be heard, which can sometimes be quite frustrating. I think basically, yeah, communication is key, and communication with the players as well. I think the relationships that I've built with people, you know, they do want to work with me because of me, as well as Blackburn Rovers, and you know what that has to offer, because it has massive potential, and all the girls are great, and I try and help them with their brands. But it's not just as easy as putting an idea or a concept forward. There are multiple hoops to go through, and to get the end result. And not just at Blackburn, you know, this is processes at any club. It is very much, it has to be assessed. And I'm like, well, why can't we just do it now?
Well, wild ideas are still very important to have in the first place. But yeah, then I guess that hard work to get them to become a reality.
Yeah.
So that's great. Thank you. Thank you for that great question as well. Another question from C.H. Barlow, I believe. What would you like to write about in this book? You're going to have to write the book now, Emma, because everyone's expecting it.
It's going to be like a three-parter, I think. I think it would obviously be about my journey and the journey before I even got to do any university, and how I've, you know, come into contact with certain areas, the whole journey from start to finish with the kids, the uni, the MBA, and then how I'll have changed sports sponsorship and landscape for women, done very progressive things to change the trajectory of women's football. I'm very much an advocate for that. And I feel like there's so much that you can do, even down to simple things like having female kit, female boots. We done a deal with Dawn Insurance to give the girls a bespoke health insurance package. They're not only insured on the pitch, they're also insured in their jobs if they have one. I think that's a massive progression for women's football, because there isn't really anything out there that's bespoke to female athletes. So the guys at Dawn Insurance are amazing for that, so I'll just give them a little plug there. But yeah, I want to do things that nobody else has done. I want to push the boundaries, and I want to write about that and look back in 10, 15 years time and go, oh my God, I've done this and it's led to that. And that's essentially why I'm doing this. And I want to be massively successful, which I feel as a woman, sometimes when you say you want to be successful and you put in hard work and you've got this career, some people don't really view, they just do their job. They're not really looking at the outcome of the success. And I think, you know, we should, because if you're not in that mind frame, why are you doing the role that you're doing? And progression needs to happen in female sport across the board, not just football.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing there is that your career is so important to you, and you're pushing that, you know, forward for you, but you're also doing it for lots of other women as well. And I think that is what's so inspirational, Emma, that you're not just, it is my career, and you know, that you are clearly all about, you know, progression for all the other women around you and in sports. So
yeah, and it's not just on the pitch, it's in the business, it's like in the back room as well. So it's nice I try and give my time to people who contact me for a chat, and because you never know, one phone call or one Zoom can change someone's life. And if I had a little part of that, then that makes me happy, because I had those people. There was a cluster of people that really put themselves out for me because they believed in me, and I'll be forever thankful for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great message, and it'll be great once the book's out and we can all read the full story. So thank you for that question. Next question from Aloma. What skills did you develop after your MBA, and how do you put them into practice today?
I think obviously I learned time management and learning to communicate in a business sense and not being so eager. I think because I worked in an airport and I dealt with so many different scenarios, so many different types of people, that really did me a favor in walking into rooms and having the ability to speak to people. So the communication part and the just absorbing of the knowledge was massive, because if I hadn't have had that, I wouldn't have been able to network. So I wouldn't have been able to get the opportunities, meet the people that I've met, and, been on this road now to eventually where I want to be in women's sports and how I want to change things up in the sponsorship space. But I say sponsorship space, there's so much that falls under that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could talk for the rest of the session about that. But interesting because it relates back to, was it Benito you said to you about, actually this job you're doing, you're not just working in the airport. There's so many components to that, and clearly that has had an impact. All of your experiences.
Yeah, I think so. I never viewed it like Benito is a very charismatic guy. Like every single professor lecturer on the Fimber course taught me something different, and they're exceptional people. And I still keep in touch with a lot of them today. But he really changed how I thought about things in a business sense and what I had actually done for the last 10 years. And I think it is society's way of kind of pigeonhole people and keeping them in a box, so we don't get these wild ideas, and we, jack our jobs in and hope for the best. So he definitely gave me a different way of thinking, which then I relayed to the whole airport team that I'm still friends with to this day. We still, we meet twice a year. There's only one left who works there, and I was like, we've done this, we've done that. And even that they didn't really think of it like that. So it's kind of, and there's so much responsibility that came with that job. We had to make sure everything was compliant. We had 189 people on a flight, and if anything went wrong, we could be essentially at fault for that. So there's a lot of pressure in that aspect. But I think because it was massive pressure, it did give me the skills to come into the MBA and deal with the pressures of football, and sometimes being in a room and feeling a bit overwhelmed and just thinking, I need to go with it here. I need to just embrace it.
Yeah, the importance of those transferable skills from areas that we wouldn't even necessarily realize, just to really think about them. I think that's a really good message. I've got a lot more questions now, so we might get on with it. Okay, next from Vipin. What do you think the future of women's football will look like in the next decade? Oh, and they also said thank you for all the motivation and inspiration, and for showing us that you can achieve anything if you believe. Oh, that's lovely.
Thank you for taking the time to come on. I think women's football is rapidly growing, and we are on a kind of a timeline, because even though the men's grew quite fast, that happened organically. So with the women's, everybody's trying new things, and we all live in different regions. So, what applies to Manchester might not apply to Liverpool or Blackburn, and we have to deal with different kinds of cultures and stuff like that, and the demographics are different. So I think on a whole, the bigger clubs are really pushing it with the attendance, and there'll be more. It probably will morph into what the men are doing, but I think it will be much more exciting. And we have the elements coming over from America as well, which is great. We'll see massive sponsorship deals. I think we'll see a lot more clubs, I would like to see, taking hold of their athletes and being responsible for a helping hand in their brands, and making sure their due diligence with their athletes is done. Because a lot of girls can just go and get deals, and they're not really thinking about what that entails for themselves. Is that the direction their brands want to go into? Obviously, we'll see stadiums getting filled out with more fans, and the growth is coming. I think it is a staggered progression, because every club isn't the same, and not every club has the same amount of investments that some do. But it's my job to, fly the flag for that and get people invested and say, this is why we want to do it. We want to have more tournaments in America, across the world, go on tours, speak at university. The commercial elements are endless if you've got the vision to see that. And I think you have to instill that vision into the players as well. So that's a task in itself. But I think it's just going to get bigger and better. And people who say it won't, just, I don't think they can see the value in it just yet, but there is massive value, and there's lots of changes coming for the next season, which I'm very excited about, which will benefit the players and the game in total.
That goes very nicely into the next question. Actually, Emma, from Maria Fernandez, who starts by saying, "Great talk, Emma, thank you, and always inspirational." Was wondering, what are you most excited about for your future work plans?
Well, right now I am working on a new commercial deck. We have so many games in March, so I've been driving hospitality, match day attendance, and actually getting fans through the gate who want to watch women's football, not just because they've been given a free ticket, because I think there's a lot more value in someone actually spending their hard-earned cash to come and watch the girls play than just giving a free ticket. But having said that, people might not know what it's all about, so giving them a free ticket is beneficial as well. But I think I'm very excited about doing dual partnerships with brands and other sports, and just showing how much empowerment there is for women across the board. And I want to see that kind of grow year on year. So with F1 sports, cricket, basketball, there's so many elements there that you can grow, and I kind of want that to have a life of its own one day. So that's a personal project I want to work on. Yeah, there's so much, to be honest, and obviously carry on giving talks and things like that, going on podcasts, just to push the word and spread the joy.
Thank you, Emma. And I think you might have touched on this next question by Trevor. Trevor's asking, Trevor is asking, what's your favourite idea that you've managed to bring to life in football?
I think from the start was being involved with the Football Transfer Forum. Obviously, I'd asked for a free ticket, and then I think most people on the day thought I was the event manager, which was not me. It was all Tony's hard work and his wife. And then he asked me to be involved after that. So being involved in the planning of that and executing these events at multiple football clubs across the UK was great. And then we done one in France, in Marseille as well. That was amazing, because I do have to pinch myself that I am actually doing these things, and the people that I speak to, and people that I grew up watching on the telly and think it's just so surreal. And that's not just in football, that's in media, entertainment, other sports as well. But I think getting the girls the Dakota Biotech deal, which tied in quite nicely with the women's element, because it was a probiotic skincare that not only is a great skincare brand, it helps heal as well from people who've had to deal with breast cancer and issues like that. So that was great to get Stephen, who owns Dakota Biotech, involved and push the boundaries of what I actually thought front of shirt was worth, because it was a lot less. But this is knowledge. People need the knowledge to invest in female sports, and it's not out there. It doesn't have to be tens of thousands of pounds to get involved. You can do a lot with very, very little. But if you have the support there, it can just grow and grow. But I think the front of shirt deal was probably one of the most pivotal up to now.
Thank you, Emma. And we've only got a few minutes left to answer questions, so we might have to do these in short, sharp answers, or we might have to take some of them offline. But we've got a question from Jeff on your thoughts on the recent proposals that relegation could be scrapped in the WSL. If this happened, how would this impact your role?
I think it would impact my role in a good way, because we'd be safer from relegation, and the clubs have that leeway to grow, not only in the league but commercially, because it's a massive part of football. Without the commercial elements and the investment, it's really hard to grow your team, get the correct players, give them what the girls need. So it is pivotal. And obviously with all the changes with the league, I think it only benefits the athletes even more, which is great for them. And it also shows that the league are very progressive in how they're going to move forward this coming September. And I just think it's great. And it's great for me, for my role as well. I like that kind of element of it. Like, you know, we're just going to roll with it, see what happens. And I think just having that pressure of not getting relegated is a massive plus.
Thank you, Emma. And I think we're not going to get a chance to answer all these questions. So maybe, you know, some of these can be asked to Emma offline if she's happy to continue
Yeah.
the conversation. But I'm just thinking Eugene and Ignacia, I'm sorry about the name pronunciation, are asking questions actually around advice. So Eugene is asking, I'm saying that they're currently studying on FIMBA and
Yeah.
there's some advice.
I think,
And
oh, sorry.
and I'm trying to bring two questions together so you can hopefully answer them both before we have to wrap up, maybe in 1 to 2 minutes. Sorry, Emma. And then maybe they can reach out to you afterwards. But Inyasi is asking for recommendations for international students who'd like to enter women's football industry in the UK.
Yeah, I think for me, one pivotal thing that the FIMBA students should do is they should start to build a portfolio of their assignments. And if they can link it to a club and a problem that they can kind of solve. So when they do have conversations with people and they do get to events and get into rooms, they've got a really solid conversation and it can be thought-provoking. And then, you know, you never know. It took me a good year before people started circling back to me saying, oh, Emma, could you do this? So I think anything that you're passionate about, especially in women's football, if you can see a gap where change could come to fruition, you should definitely grow your skills onto that and kind of implement it into some assignments so you have a hard copy of proof to go from. And you can then chop that up, put it onto LinkedIn, and you know, you can spark interest there. But definitely make LinkedIn your best friend as well.
That's great advice. Thank you, Emma. I thought we're going to have to wrap up, and I'm sorry that we've not got to the last couple of questions. But a big thank you to everyone for being here and for asking all these fantastic questions. And obviously a huge thank you to Emma as well for taking your time today to share your fantastic experiences and journey with us. And I've really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. And it is a bit surreal to come on to things like this. And, you know, people are like, oh, you can give inspiration. And I'm just me. So, but yeah, if anyone does
Being
have
here is
any questions,
inspirational.
yeah, if anyone does have any further questions, and I think I probably might come into FIMBA and maybe chat to the students. So I'm gonna kind of set that up. So not to worry if you didn't get anything answered. But thank you all for your time and thank you for listening.
Oh, that would be wonderful to have you back at FIMBA, I'm sure. So just a note to everybody that a link for the recording of today's session will be uploaded to the alumni web pages, and it's also going to be shared with everyone who's registered, so you will get a link to this session shortly. But for now, yeah, once again, thank you so much, everyone, for being so engaged and for your time today, and have a fantastic rest of the day. Take care.
Bye.